Welcome. You are listening to the Play Big Queen podcast. This is for you if you are a woman who is an entrepreneur, business owner, professional, leader, or someone who is deeply committed to personal growth, self-improvement, transformation, and living authentically. This is especially for you if you have an invisible disability, whether you are diagnosed, undiagnosed, self-diagnosed, or late diagnosed, and you are working on reclaiming your neurodivergent identity, rebuilding confidence, learning what works for your unique brilliance while breaking free from small people-pleasing conditioning. If you are a visionary change maker interested in advancing your leadership and creating success on your terms, and you want to leave a legacy, if you are navigating disability or neurodiversity as an individual or as an ally, and you are looking for a supportive and inclusive environment to thrive, then this is for you. I am your hostess, Kate Bailey. I am the Play Big Queen. My name is my title and a command for all women. Play Big Queen. I invite you to claim this title for yourself and coronate your Play Big self too, if it serves you. I am a business and embodiment mentor working with women who are ready to rise the fuck up and be your bold, beautiful, sexy ass self, start and grow your big, bold vision, and claim that you too get to have your boldest desires. I am the creatrix of Kate Bailey LLC, which provides coaching services, educational courses, products, and experiences that promote success in neurodiversity advocacy, women's empowerment, embodiment, entrepreneurship, and business to serve women on their transformational journey. To learn more about my company offerings and to get on my email list, go to xxxkatebailey.com. If you would like to learn more about my work, my personal values, my mission, and my community, make sure you catch the last 5 minutes of this episode to go deeper and learn so much more. On this podcast, sometimes we will have guests. Sometimes I'll do solo episodes, but every single time you listen, you will expand. So get ready. It's a new era for women on the Play Big path. Long may we reign. Hello, my Play Big Queens. How you doing? Welcome back. I love you so much for being here every week and listening to the wisdom and brilliance I have to share with you so you can burn the old rule book and build a life that actually feels good to live. If you hear like cars passing or birds chirping or trucks going by, it's because I'm on my back porch, which has become my preferred recording studio. My husband and stepson designed this porch for me. It is so pleasurable to be out here, and I feel really creatively inspired when I'm out here. So if we get a few noises in the background, it's totally worth it. Today, my Queenie Boo, we are diving into something that could change your entire relationship with success, leadership, and self-regulation. Today's episode is called From Addiction to Alignment, Pleasure as a Catalyst for Connection, Leadership, and Success. And I want to start this episode by telling you something that I wish someone had said to me years ago. The opposite of addiction is connection. Connection to yourself, connection to love, to your soul, your spirit, your people, whether that's your blood family or your chosen family, your chosen friends who lift you up, connection to your true purpose and your true pleasure, connection to the people, places, and things you actually love in this life. And here is the second thing I wish I'd known. The number one secret to success, happiness, and fulfillment is knowing the difference between addictive pleasure and true pleasure. Because knowing that's knowing how to consciously navigate the difference between what drains you and what sustains you, what keeps you stuck and what sets you free, what numbs your power and what fucking activates it. Now, when some women start learning about pleasure, especially those of us who are neurodivergent and have been told to suppress, deny, or over-intellectualize our needs, sometimes we get it wrong. We catch the wave that pleasure can be the key to having it all, to having the business we want, the relationships we want, the life of flow and freedom that we crave. But if we actually haven't experienced true pleasure, we don't know how to distinguish it. It's easy to fall into the trap of mistaking true pleasure for those quick hits of sensory feel goodies that actually leave you more depleted than before. True pleasure is energizing. It's the difference between hopping up, vibrant, and ready to take on the world after being a well fucked woman versus crashing into bed after a night of rolling in the sack with someone who doesn't give a damn about what turns you on, bracing yourself as you get banged and bored to death. The opposite of true pleasure is feeling wired, restless, and still somehow empty. True pleasure fills your cup. Addictive pleasure drains it and gaslights you into thinking that it was love, intimacy, or self care. True pleasure is when you are in alignment and connected. You ever notice how sometimes you eat this big piece of juicy chocolate cake and your body just sponges it up and starts using the calories to bring you back to life? And other times you eat that same piece of cake and you feel tired and heavy and in a shame spiral afterwards? Yeah, that's because your body knows the difference between eating for nourishment and eating for escape. And it's not just about the cake, it's about the energy behind it. True pleasure happens when your body, mind, and soul are actually on the same team. When you are connected, when you are present, when you are saying yes from a place of wholeness, that cake becomes fuel. It brings you back to life. But when you're disconnected, when you're trying to numb out, avoid, or perform worthiness through indulgence, even the sweetest thing can leave the most bitter aftertaste. That is not true pleasure. That's a hit. That's a fix. That's addiction. And your body feels the difference. Pleasure isn't just about what you consume, it's about how rooted you are in your own yes when you choose it. Now, my neurodivergent people, especially, we are particularly susceptible to comorbidities like addiction, anxiety, and depression because of how we're wired differently. Whether you are addicted to caffeine, love, bad food, smoking, drugs, drinking, TV, doom scrolling on social media, attention, drama, fighting, failing, or working out, when we become addicted, we rely on using a behavior or chemical to get that hit of dopamine and regulate, which winds up being extremely dysregulating and unhealthy. Again, dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a crucial role in reward, motivation, focus, and attention. And individuals with ADHD often have lower dopamine levels compared to those without ADHD. And especially for those of us with ADHD or other neurodivergent profiles, this can be our default regulation system. We crave the dopamine we lack to regulate, so we crave stimulation. So dopamine becomes our go-to fuel source, but it is not sustainable. It needs to be regulated though, because too little dopamine leads to a decrease in motivation, fatigue, trouble initiating, lack of interest in activities, and difficulty concentrating or paying attention, decreased pleasure, and decreased overall well being. And too much dopamine leads to addiction, burnout, and a deep inner hunger that never quite feels fed. One of the resources that I reference the most in my work is the work of Dr. Robert Lustig, a well-known pediatric neuroendocrinologist who distinguishes between two distinct pleasure systems in the brain, addictive pleasure and true happiness, based on their biological underpinnings, particularly in the context of neurotransmitters. I simply refer to it as the difference between addictive pleasure and true pleasure. So let's break down and differentiate, because you need to be able to identify and bring this into your awareness, because awareness leads to behavior change, right? Addictive pleasure is based on the dopamine system in the body. The dopamine system is short term, felt viscerally, and it's addictive. it activates only 5 receptors in the brain, and it's all about motivation and desire. You feel it in your body, like think eating, scrolling, binging Netflix, shopping, even doom scrolling Instagram reels, and it's generally felt more intensely. It inspires taking, and it's typically experienced alone. When you get dopamine, it feels pleasurable, and your brain says, "This feels good, I want more." Now, if you've experienced any type of addiction, I'm guessing this sounds familiar. Now, there's also evidence that suggests that individuals with ADHD can have reduced serotonin levels or dysfunction in the serotonergic system. Too little serotonin leads to depression and anxiety, as well as other issues like sleep problems, digestive issues, and even suicidal thoughts. And too much serotonin in the body can lead to a potentially life-threatening condition called serotonin syndrome. This is where someone might experience agitation, restlessness, anxiety, confusion, disorientation, and delirium. And in severe cases, serotonin syndrome can cause seizures and coma. But regulated serotonin is necessary for true pleasure. So, true pleasure in Robert Lustig's framework is based on serotonin, and it's explained like this: serotonin is long term, ethereal, and not addictive. It spreads across at least 14 receptors going all over the brain for deep integration. It inspires contentment and giving. It is usually shared with friends, family, community, or even with yourself through reflection or meditation. With serotonin, the brain's message here is, this feels good and it's enough. This is pleasurable and I have satisfaction. Now, that last part is where the transformative shift comes into play. True pleasure leaves you grounded, nourished, and more connected to your power. Now, if you're neurodivergent, especially with unmanaged ADHD, you may have spent most of your life ping-ponging in the dopamine loop because the ADHD brain is dopamine starved. It is constantly scanning for stimulation, novelty, and intensity, even if it's not consciously doing so. And it does that by a whole bunch of different behaviors, whether they're conscious or unconscious. The way the brain does that is by picking fights or stirring drama because conflict equals stimulation. It does it by doom scrolling and over consuming, where your brain is like literally foraging for tiny dopamine hits. And so you wind up in these endless TikTok loops, Reddit rabbit holes, hours lost on Instagram stories. It's not just procrastination, it's like literally your neurochemistry subconsciously trying to regulate. We can also see it with emotional eating or binging, which is another way we get like sucked into this dopamine loop. Food is sensory, it's immediate, and it's full of quick dopamine. Binging, especially sugar, carbs, or salty snacks, is a very common way to self-soothe or to get that actual feeling of being rewarded, even though it often leads to a crash. And I know a lot of people can feel this one, right? Impulsive shopping. It's one of those big ones that also especially gives women this hit of newness, especially when a package arrives, especially with like multi-billion-dollar companies like marketing to us nonstop, right? People with ADHD often overspend online or chase that high of having like a new outfit, a new tool, a new planner, or some new gadget that they hope will fix their life or how they're feeling. We also see hyperfixations and obsessive crushes, right? And this can happen particularly with young women who are encouraged to like make marriage and being with a partner everything in their world. So they'll experience love addiction, right? Romantic infatuation, fantasy futures, or going all in on a new person super fast, like love bombing them or being deep in a project for 3 days straight, right? It's intense, it's thrilling, and it's also unsustainable. And it's also a classic dopamine flood behavior. especially with my entrepreneurs. We also see it with overcommitting and burning out, right? The thrill of saying yes to everything without thinking about the new demands that that commitment is going to place on us, right? The people pleasing, the planning, the fantasy of being the best until you're like overstimulated, resentful, and ready to burn it all the fuck down. Another way we see this too is these last minute rushes, putting things off until the pressure is unbearable, then doing it in a burst of adrenaline fueled panic, like the deadline becomes the dopamine. And again, it's not lazy, it's a brain hack that eventually backfires. Or maybe like trying to feed the dopamine starved brain looks like this. You go from a high energy sprint of productivity, right? Like hyper focused, unstoppable, God tier queen vibes. And then you go into crashing into a pit of depletion and overwhelm for 3 days afterwards. You feel like you're either operating at Beyonce level or lying face down on the bathroom floor crying over a pile of dirty laundry and all your unmet potential. Yeah, that is not a personality flaw. I just want to remind you, boo boo, that that is neurochemistry and nervous system dysregulation. And that is why pleasure is not a luxury. True pleasure is an intervention. It's not always going to be about feeling good, but it's going to be about learning to recognize when your system is kind of out of whack and knowing how to come back into relationship with yourself and into relationship with true pleasure. We have to stop confusing what feels good with what is good for me. And again, chasing addictive pleasure is so often an unconscious attempt to regulate a dysregulated nervous system. It's your body and brain saying, I need to feel something or I will disappear. But true pleasure is rooted in connection, alignment, and safety, and it doesn't require a crash after the high. It is sustainable, it is nurturing, and it's something you have to actively work to attune to in order to hear, because instead of screaming like dopamine, serotonin whispers. Now, there are some people out there, especially other ADHD coaches and mentors, that recommend that you chase the dopamine, that you chase the stimulation and regulate through the chaos. And while in moderation, that's okay and can be a useful tool, like it's something I even use. I side stim by doing fashion and graphic design. Like, moderation is okay, but like if that's left unchecked, that story always inevitably ends with you collapsing in total exhaustion. And when that happens, it's important to remember that it is not a personal failure. That is, again, your nervous system adapting to an environment that never understood what you needed. And here's where I really want you to hear me. You do not have to burn out to create brilliance. You do not have to hustle for your worth or grind yourself to the bone just to belong. Pleasure is not a reward for success. Pleasure is the very sacred vehicle for it. So, what is the secret to accessing true pleasure? It's very simple, and it's one word: connection. A lot of my clients have major aha moments and moments of massive transformation when they come to understand Lustig's work and when they see his chart, which I'm going to link in the show notes. From there, they learn how to adjust their actions to benefit their desired state. What is really important to remember here is that your chemical state can affect your behavior, or your behavior can affect your chemical state. This is why if you put the chemical caffeine in your body through drinking coffee, you can become energized. But you can also just decide to have the behavior of exercising and working out and going to the gym no matter how you feel, and then you can get a runner's high. Dopamine is more often generated by behaviors experienced alone, and it is short-lived. Serotonin is more often generated by behaviors that get you connected to yourself. It gets you connected to your higher power, love, a purpose greater than you, or it gets you connected to others. The body without being conscious of it, again, knows this. The body has an intelligence of its own, and the body is going to compensate or behave accordingly by seeking the chemicals or the behavior that is going to help you make up for the deficits in dopamine or serotonin. But the thing that really sucks about nature and the way we're wired is that your brain will be much more motivated to make up for a lack of dopamine than it will be to make up for a lack of serotonin, which is why it is easier to doom scroll than it is to meditate. When we experience depression, it's a very common experience for us to go to the therapist and the therapist to say, well, you need to exercise or you need to dance or spend time with people and get your body moving. But therapists always drop the ball here because they never tell you why. They never tell you about the neurochemistry behind how behavior and like sheer willpower, making the behavioral choice to go exercise will lead to changing your neurochemistry. And when you're feeling down and when you feel like you have no energy, it can feel really shitty for someone to tell you, go be around people or go exercise, because we think that when we go do those things, it is going to take all of our energy and burn us out even more. And that might be true for the first couple of weeks, but eventually the exact opposite happens. We might initially feel run down as we shift from being dopamine reliant dominant to serotonin reliant dominant, but the effects are most often this like lasting satisfaction and pleasure with a dominant serotonin system, but it's not as intense. So a lot of the time people can get caught chasing that intensity. Burnout, depression, maxing out your capacity can be from a lack of meaningful connection with yourself, your soul, or others. And when you have meaningful connections with people who see you, like in neurodiverse affirming coaching spaces, it might not feel great at first. There might be a lack of motivation to engage or show up. There might be social anxiety, but your body starts gradually getting more and more on a serotonin system the more you engage in behaviors that generate serotonin. And then it becomes this like magical place where you are getting energy, your capacity is starting to increase and expand. Again, the dopamine dominant system says this feels good, but I want more. The serotonin dominant system tells your brain and body this is what true pleasure and happiness feels like. This is good and it is enough. Entrepreneurship, running a business, stepping into leadership caused some serious depression for me in the early stages. And there were a lot of causes for depression throughout my whole life, like loss, natural disasters, all the traumatic things that I have seen from working in emergency medicine. But the most depressed I have ever been is when I was in early stage entrepreneurship as a neurodiverse person who was unseen and unsupported in my specific challenges. When I didn't have people that I could connect to with similar lived experiences that were also navigating being neurodiverse and had like a big, bold vision for life and business like I did, it was the hardest. Your social health as a leader and as a business owner and as a professional, as an entrepreneur is so critical, especially if we're going to change the way things work in the world for women and women with invisible disabilities. Being in community with like-minded women who get it, who are doing the transformational work with themselves and each other, will help you become more fully self-expressed, more fully self-possessed in your leadership and help you stay accountable to your greatness. And that is not the only difference in your success as a leader in business, but it's all the difference in what ensures your happiness when you arrive on the other side. When you are deeply connected to who you are, your purpose, when you know what actually feels good to you, not what you're told should feel good, but when you know what feels good for you, when you have nourishing relationships with people who really truly see you and want to support you, you start to activate the serotonin system. you start to experience true pleasure. Your social health, especially as a woman, is so, so critical. And if you're neurodivergent, just multiply that shit by 10. We are so often isolated, masking, and misunderstood. And many of us, especially late diagnosed women, have spent a lifetime disconnected from our own internal cues of enoughness, rest, desire, and trust. But there is good news. You can rebuild that connection. You can create new ones that are healthy for you. You can create a new model of leadership that is grounded in true pleasure, nervous system safety, deep internal regulation, embodied self-trust, and even radical unapologetic pleasure. This is the model of leadership that we are building inside Play Big Queen. It's not about being louder, faster, or more quote unquote productive. It's about being more you. Okay, some quick reflections and then we'll get into the practicals here, right? Okay, remember, dopamine is not the enemy. It's not bad. Dopamine helps you get things done. It gives you drive. It gets you out of bed. It creates motivation. But on its own, it is just a spark. It is not the fire that is going to keep you burning with passion for all the things you desire to do in life. You need the integration of serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins that all come from being connected to yourself and others in order for pleasure to become sustainable. And that is the real glow up, building a life that doesn't just chase the highs, right? But creates harmony in your whole damn neurobiological system. But now let's get practical. I love it when the rubber meets the road. Okay, maybe you want to get like a journal or something here. I don't know. Or just like pause the podcast and like inquire with yourself about these things live in real time. But here is how to start shifting from addictive pleasure to true pleasure, from survival mode dopamine spirals to deep, pure, integrated joy. Number one, we're going to track our patterns with compassion. In the beginning, just take an observer perspective. Be like, this is just going to be an experiment. I'm just going to kind of look at what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to say, oh, that's interesting, right? Just start noticing when you reach for your go-to dopamine fixes. What time of day is it? What's the trigger? And what is the aftermath? Again, this is not about shaming yourself. It's about getting curious. Are you actually tired when you open Instagram for the 12th time? Are you craving connection when you grab that third cup of coffee or slide into someone's DMs who you know is a fuckboy? Ask yourself, where am I chasing quick hits that feel good but leave me drained? Where in my life do I feel truly nourished, connected, and held? What would shift if I built my business, my relationships, my daily routine, and led from true pleasure? It is so important to take the time to learn your clues because awareness leads to behavior change. Awareness and looking at the data around how you behave is step one to experiencing more choice and more freedom. Okay, number two. Practice microdosing true pleasure. You do not have to overhaul your whole life to start healing your relationship with pleasure. You do not have to change everything in order to create a pathway out of addiction and into true pleasure. It starts with 5 minutes. 5 minutes of connecting to yourself, connecting with others in a true and genuine way. I mean, without the bullshit, right? Because we all know the difference between our friends that we get down with when we're in addiction mode and friends that we get down with when we are building the bigger vision for our life, when we are ready to come up, when we are ready to expand and get elevated. Ask yourself the question and really stay open to the answer, even if it doesn't come to you immediately. Maybe it'll come to you throughout the day or sometime in the next week. But ask yourself, what is one thing that feels good, not just in the moment, but afterwards? Think of something that gives you energy, clarity, softness, or groundedness. For me, one of the things is like spending time with my dog. Oh my God. Dogs are just like God spelled backward. They are so happy and like they just are so happy to be with you. And like it's so easy to be present and playful with a dog. So that's one thing for me. But for you, maybe it's breathing in the smell of your favorite lotion as you rub it on your skin slowly. Maybe it's laying down for 3 minutes and letting your muscles go completely limp. It could be laughing with a friend about something that just does not matter. It could be lighting a candle and doing nothing but watching the flame flicker. Whatever it is, let it be enough and let it show you the magic of serotonin, the magic of being taught to feel satisfied. Okay, now my third practical thing and last thing that I have for you is create a true pleasure playlist. This is just for you and your nervous system. We all need a custom true pleasure toolkit. So start building one. Ask yourself, what helps me feel safe and grounded? What helps me feel energized without crashing? What helps me reconnect to my joy, creativity, sensuality, or power? Ask yourself those questions and see where these things can become your anchors, the things that both ground you and that come back to you often because they work, right? For me, whenever I do a coaching call, you know, I am confident, but like I always have like an embodied experience of some social anxiety because that's just the way I'm wired with like ADHD. I don't have these thoughts that like people don't like me or whatever. I really don't. I've done a lot of work in that area, but I do get like this physical sensation of social anxiety that just never seems to shake. It's always like a low hum that's being managed, but it does disappear when I light my candles. I go into my coaching calls very intentionally. If you've ever been on a coaching call with me, you've seen I've got like a whole bunch of candles in the background. I light the call. I look at the flame for a moment. I take a deep breath in and let my body feel this like tiny sensation of warmth that's coming from a single flame or sometimes like 5 flames if I'm lighting a lot of candles. And those are my anchors for every single call. It literally like makes the social anxiety disappear because I've practiced it so much. It's like candle gets lit, serotonin gets sparked. I feel socially relaxed and deeply anchored into my play big queen. And these anchors that you discover through answering these practical questions, they're not just to be used when you feel burned out. They're actually like a way of leading yourself through your daily life and your work and business and relationships differently. Because authentic leadership isn't just about making money, managing people, or building a platform, although we need and get to do all those things, right? But authentic leadership is about being the first one to come back into alignment so you can lead others from your overflow and not your depletion. True pleasure is the new leadership model, the one where pleasure isn't a reward for hard work, it is the actual fuel. The one where you stop trying to earn rest or earn your softness or joy and you start seeing them as essential to your success. This is where leadership becomes an embodied practice and not a performance. You don't have to white knuckle your way to greatness. Like, you don't have to chase the next hit in order to feel worthy. Bitch, I know your soul knows the truth that you are already whole, you are already brilliant, and your true pleasure is not a distraction, it is your compass. Thank you for tuning in and getting attuned in this episode. In the upcoming weeks, I'm going to launch a new workshop. It is going to be so juicy. It's going to be a little raunchy. It's going to be all about embodiment and money and messiness and eroticism and pleasure and true pleasure. It's going to be so juicy. I hope you stay tuned. And if this episode resonated with you, I need you to help me. I need you to share it with a friend who needs to hear this, because the information around addictive pleasure and true pleasure for some of my clients has been absolutely life-changing. It has been transformational, and it has been the catalyst for them to really come into their power. So share this with anyone and everyone who needs to know this about leadership, pleasure, addiction, true pleasure. And if you're ready to explore what true, sustainable, embodied leadership looks like for your nervous system, you can find out more about working with me, especially for this next workshop that I'm going to launch at my Facebook at Play Big Queen. Come be a friend, come follow me, let me love up on you, and we can go higher together. All right, until next time, go find something that feels truly pleasurable and that feels good for real. And let it satisfy you, and just let it be enough. Okay, that's it for this episode of the Play Big Queen podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. As always, eat the fruit, spit out the seeds, take what nourished you, keep what resonated for you, and leave the rest, because ultimately, you know best. This episode is over until next time, but we can keep this thing going. Go to xxxkatebailey.com, scroll to the bottom where it says join our community, and get on the email list to get all the juicy details about all my offerings and where Play Big Queens play together online, on social media, and in person. We've got a tight community of women claiming their boldest desires, celebrating wins, playing all out, fiercely standing for each other, and going higher together. Go to xxxkatebailey.com, put in your email address, and confirm your subscription. Once you're in, you'll get all the juicy guides, tips, and inspirations, and you get notified first about all the offers we have for all the big stuff we're doing over here. Go to xxxkatebailey.com to stay in the loop. That's xxxkatebailey.com. If you like what you heard in this podcast, subscribe, share it with your friends. And if you got something from this, I would appreciate some reviews and ratings. When you take the time to review the podcast, it helps our podcast get out to more women who need it. If you haven't already, head over to iTunes and Spotify and show Play Big Queen some love. Also, I want you to know that my door is always open, and I will always make space for you to be heard and to honor your experience. The views expressed in this podcast are through the lens of my personal identity and my own lived experience. I am a European mix, Mediterranean mutt who is an Italian, Sicilian, cis heterosexual woman born in New York, experiencing the world in a white body as a multiply neurodivergent who lives in a neurodiverse and racially blended family. And like everyone else, my one single perspective comes with its own limitations. I have done personal and professional work around anti-racism, diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion. I am not a therapist or doctor, and any coaching or advice cannot take the place of professional medical, mental health, or healing help. However, that being said, what happens in my work is often a very powerful, additional, supplemental, or alternative way to heal around identity work, mindset, and emotional wellness. Although I am not a licensed therapist, it is worth noting that in addition to being a mentor, I am trained and certified in emergency medicine and response. I have rendered care to over 20,000 patients in the course of my career. I have taught over 15,000 students, many of which had learning disabilities that were undiagnosed and came from diverse cultural backgrounds. I was also a private health college adjunct professor who was responsible for training medical professionals on how to respond to trauma and behavioral emergencies. If you approach me with any concern, you will be met with professionalism, compassion, tact, understanding, support, and a readiness and a willingness to advocate for your needs. That being said, sometimes I just get it wrong. I am a human being on my own growth journey after all. When I mess up, I'm always available for a courageous and crucial conversation that makes way for growth and healing. Your experience and voice matters to me. I sincerely welcome any feedback you feel called to share. You can email your comments or concerns to info@playbigqueen.com, knowing that I am open to having any and all crucial conversations needed. Okay, remember, you are brilliant. Celebrate yourself. Value your own unique way and honor your own timing, because you can totally create a life and business that feels good and is successful on your terms. Remember to release expectations of what you think your play big process should look like, and be willing to do the work that needs to be done to play big. But most of all, when you come face to face with your boldest desires, remember to trust yourself and play big, queen. Hi, queen. I see you're in it for the long game. If you reach this part of the podcast episode, it means you're interested in learning more about my work, my values, my mission, and my community. So let's go deeper together. I am here to activate neurodivergent women to play bigger and to show you that you are so capable of doing big things, and that if you value your own unique way and honor your own timing, you will learn to receive your boldest desires and so much more. In my world, what makes you different is valued, celebrated, honored, and welcome. I welcome all who identify as female and non-binary folk in my Play Big Queens community. We believe in and support LGBTQIA+2S, Black Lives Matter, women's and pro-choice rights, and obviously intersectional identities, including disabilities, neurodivergence, and religious beliefs. Personally, I am pro-sex worker rights, pro-Palestinian liberation, against Islamophobia, and against anti-Semitism, and I'm also against any cult-like religions that use beliefs as an excuse to indoctrinate people into abusive, autocratic systems. Like many neurodivergent people, we have big hearts and a strong sense of social justice around here. You are encouraged to stay and play in our Play Big Queen community if you share these values. For those who find the word queen does not resonate, perhaps because of imperial associations, the Play Big self archetype can take any form, and the invitation and activation remains the same. To learn to embody your Play Big self, to operate from love instead of fear, to go on a play big journey in community, because you know that no play big queen can truly play big alone. To decide to cultivate the courage to use your voice, unmask, reclaim, embrace, and embody your brilliance, and create a life and business that works with the unique way that you work. Through this work, you will come to know the truth of your brilliance deeply. And as you come to know your authentic self, more and more will begin to open up for you. Knowing your unique brilliance will lead to great success and true belonging. In this world, we take the pressure off and learn to step off the traditional path so you can blaze your own trail. My mission is to get you motivated, inspired, and equipped to get into massive action and go on your very own Play Big journey. My mission is to empower at least 10,000 women to fully step into their Play Big self by offering healing, transformative, inclusive, and neurodiverse affirming coaching and content. Through innovative coaching programs, courses, and masterclasses, we provide the tools, support, sustainability, and community needed to help each woman embrace her unique path to confidence, success, and meaningful impact. If just 10,000 women with invisible disabilities and their allies were empowered with neurodiverse affirming and inclusive communication to express their unique brilliance, step into their authority and autonomy, and lead, the world would experience a profound shift towards inclusivity, innovation, and empathy. These women would break through societal limitations, modeling resilience, creativity, and strength of diversity. Their voices and perspectives, often shaped by unique experiences with challenges and perseverance, would redefine business leadership, inspire systemic change, and create spaces where diverse ways of thinking are not just accepted, but celebrated. Industries and communities would become more accessible and inclusive, with practices that honor varied ways of working, communicating, and achieving. This change would ripple into every area of life and society. Workplaces would become more adaptable, offering a culture of respect for individual strengths. Healthcare and education systems would improve, centering accessibility and compassion in their approaches, and policies would evolve to better support those with invisible challenges, benefiting society as a whole. So many women with so much potential are shrinking in the face of their own brilliance, just sitting on the sidelines waiting for permission instead of getting in the game. The activation of the latent potential in these women, their empowerment, making them visible, would inspire others, reduce stigma around invisible disabilities, and encourage everyone to lead authentically. Their successes will light the way for countless more women to rise, creating a culture of true diversity where every person feels valued, included, and emboldened to contribute their brilliance and lead with it. If you know you are ready for more clarity, confidence, and you want to embody your play big self and be supported around creating the big vision for your life and business, then send me an email at info@playbigqueen.com telling me why this work is so important for you, and we can explore opportunities to work together and make your play big dreams a reality.